This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
Welcome to Six Tackles as we have a look at Magic Round at Suncorp Stadium. What do they say about Queensland? Beautiful one day, perfect the next. And then there's Origin, of course. On the show today, the Tigers win. And they do it against the twice defending premiers. What about that? Some very big ins and outs, and they have Origin implications. We've got a grand final in the Six Tackles Scariest Man in NRL, and we'll have a preview, of course, of Magic Round. Phil Gould, welcome. So the Bulldogs play the first game in Magic Round. So you packing your dancing shoes for the rest of the weekend?
Hello, Matthew. I wasn't going to go to Magic Round. I'm not calling any games for Channel 9 this weekend, and the Bulldogs were the first game, so I thought I could stay home and do some work. But it turns out now that I am going. I'm going to go up Thursday afternoon, and I'll be staying all weekend.
Oh.
Coming home Monday.
Who twisted your arm into that one?
Well, Bulldogs board wanted me to come up and talk to some sponsors and see a few things, and then on the weekend I've got a few player managers to speak to about the future, and I'm going to go and watch Toowoomba play in the Queensland Cup on the weekend as well, because we have our little sister arrangement up there, and they're going pretty well. They won last week.
Yep.
Beat Ipswich 46-10 or something like that.
Wow.
Flogged them. Very good.
So no socialising for Gussie?
No socialising, mate. I'm not a socialiser. I'm not a drinker.
What about the Caxton?
No.
Hey?
No.
They welcome you with open arms in the Caxton these days.
Yeah, very popular at the Caxton.
Oh, very good. Let's kick it off as we always do.
No. That's the rule. No. Dear.
Well, according to the bookies, the answer to this first question is pretty clear, but I'll see what Gus has to say. The Tigers' win over the Panthers is the biggest NRL upset of the last decade.
No. No, I didn't even see it as a massive upset, to be honest. I really didn't. Mm-hmm. You know, wet weather, Panthers missing a few players, Tigers' desperation. You know, the wet weather was the key. It was going to keep the scores close, and the Tigers got it done. They handled the conditions much better than the Panthers and got it done. But I've seen bigger upsets than that in my time.
Okay.
No, I gave them. I got a lot of messages from a lot of Panthers fans on the Saturday leading up to the game saying they were very nervous about it. So there might have been a feeling within the Panthers camp that they were vulnerable. But it was good to see the Tigers get a win. I would love to see the underdog get up every now and then.
They might get another one this weekend.
Why is that?
Tigers.
The Tigers.
Yeah.
They're in with a chance. They've got a good side.
Speaking of Tigers clash this weekend, Ben Hunt, will he be a Raider next year?
No. No. Can't see that.
Bit of scuttlebutt around?
Can't see that.
No.
Just the cold will turn him off.
Yeah.
He's a Rockhampton boy.
Oh, that's
Queenslander.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think he'll stick it out with the Dragon.
They've got plenty of dough to throw around.
Who, the Raider?
Yeah.
They have now.
Yeah.
They have now. But they've got to be very careful about how they spend it, don't they?
Yeah.
There aren't many options out there in the halves. That's why they're commanding such big money, and there aren't many options out there. And I think a lot of it, we haven't seen the real young emerging players this year, and I think that's because of the couple of years off we had with COVID. There was no junior rep football, no development football, and that crop of players is taking a little bit longer to sort of come through and make its mark at the NRL. And halves they're hard to find. They're really hard to find. So,
seen any halves in the English Super League that you like?
Well, the ones that are over there that are going really good are ex-Australians, former Australians. Dodd, the boys.
Lewis Dodd?
Lewis Dodd looks like a player of the future, but he's signed for some years.
Has he?
I don't think the solution's over there. I think you've just got to find some kids and develop them through and be patient about it.
Hello, Fiona Khan Pereira is the fastest man on the planet.
No.
There's all no's.
We've got the fastest man on the planet,
Yeah.
mate. Yeah.
Well, I reckon there's a challenger. This bloke.
No.
My goodness, he can run.
Yeah, he can, can't he?
How explosive is he off the mark?
Yeah. It's exciting. Speed is exciting. It really excites people. And every time you get the ball now, people will sit up off their seat in anticipation. Kick for him. He chase and he can save tries. Speed saves tries as well. Speed, it's the one thing you've got to have.
Can you ask the Fox if he reckons Khan Pereira's faster than him?
The Fox won't admit to that.
Won't he?
No.
The Fox knows he's quick.
Fox knows it.
Yeah.
Fox is a freaky man, you ask him.
How's he going, the Fox?
Going good.
How's his ankle?
Good. He's trying to defy everybody. He believes he's going to get back weeks before the doctors say, because he says, as I quote, he's a freaky man.
Is that what he says?
He says, I'm a freaky man. He thinks he'll do it. He actually ran last week. He actually went out on the field and ran, which was way ahead of schedule.
Fast or just fast?
Everything he does is fast.
That's great. It's great.
Yep.
Love the Fox. Sure, I can get a yes out of you at some stage. David Fafita will return to Queensland's team for the Origin.
Yes, most definitely. He's actually starting to mature as a player, being a little bit more consistent both sides of the ball. There's a lot more care about his work, and I think it's the penny started to drop with him. It's not easy coming through as a young fella and getting the raps that he had, being as dominant as he was in his age group, coming through and transitioning that to the NRL straight away, and then being put on such big money at a young age, which I think is detrimental to young players as well. There's plenty of time to earn your money. You don't have to be earning it straight away. But he seems to have come through that. He's had some time in different positions and even been dropped to the bench, and people then starting to question his ability completely. But I think this year has been signs of maturity and development, which is very pleasing to see. And with a few other players not going as well as they probably would like to be, and a couple that are injured and maybe even suspended, I think the door will be open there for Fafita.
Notwithstanding those absences, they've got a pretty formidable pack, Queensland. I'm just sort of thinking back row. Felice Kafusi, Kurt Capewell, David Fafita, Ruben Cotter, Patrick Carrigan, Christian Welsh will be one prop.
Jeremiah Nanny.
I think he's
suspended at the moment.
Well, he'll be back in time to play.
He'll be back for some part of the Origin series.
Tom Gilbert played last year.
Papali'i.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Speaking of Origin, Game 1's 28 days away, which means it is close enough to talk Origin.
No, it's not. No. You don't pick your team now. All you people, journos, want to pick your team.
Sub-question.
What's the question?
I knew you'd say that. Don't pick your team before the medical. Can you remember some significant changes you had to make because of medicals? So anyone fail the medical when they were coming into your camps?
Oh, back in my day, they used to go to the pub and have a few beers so they didn't feel the pain during the medical.
Oh, you'd say Benny Elias did that.
Benny Elias did that. I think he had a broken hand, so he went and got a skinful at the pub and come in. They could have hit him with a sledgehammer. He wouldn't have felt anything.
I talked to Freddie earlier for Freddie in the 8th too, and the famous one is when Wally was ruled out of the Kangaroo Tour in 1990. I didn't realise that Freddie replaced him.
Yeah.
Gee, there's a hiding to nothing.
Yeah. The medicals back in the day was, touch your toes and touch your nose and all that sort of thing. And you'd sort of fake your way through it. And then
get breathalyzed before you start.
Yeah, and we'd say, leave him in. So, and then we'd work it out later in the week whether or not he could play or not. We'd bring in a couple of shadow players and that. Medicals are a little bit more difficult these days. So
it was a bit more relaxed. You didn't have to make any changes.
These days you don't even have a medical. These days the clubs do the medical and you ring them up and say, how is he? No, we know he's no good. We trust their opinion and go from there.
Any of the clubs pull the wool over the eyes?
It's been known to happen.
Yeah.
It's been known to happen, but the player usually stands up for himself if he feels as though he's been wrongly diagnosed. But that doesn't happen. Doctors are pretty cool with that.
So you never had to scratch anyone at the barriers that you can think of?
No. I had a couple I hoped were injured. But
there was a series you had to scratch a few after the night out. I read about that. I've been doing a fair bit of research about Origin.
Yeah, they stepped out of the crease there.
Did they? What?
We had to remove the bails.
Oh no! Now look, I'm going to hit you on Origin. Nicho Hynes says he's been focused on stiffening his defence this season with a view to playing Origin. I love the fact that he's coming out and unequivocally stating that he wants to play Origin. Some players are like, great team, great combination. He's like, no, I'm ready and I want to play. He's 3 points off the Dally M leader now, again. Where do you stand from an Origin coaching perspective on club combination, versus form? Because I know Andrew Johns, he's a stickler for combination. When you get tired, chips it down, you go back to relying on what you practice. But where does form come into making that judgment call?
It's always an interesting question, and you can even add on to that, previous performance. I think that players that have proven they can do it at that level are often given the inside running by most coaches, when making selections. Combinations, it's one of the biggest keys in in any brand of football. It's one of the biggest combinations in team sport. Combinations it's one of the biggest winning factors. Time spent playing together, number of games spent playing together is a massive factor. And some coaches undersell that and underestimate that because they're constantly making changes, looking for a solution, when the better solution is to stick with it and keep persevering with it, and eventually their talent will come through and the combination will come through. So firstly, Nicho Hynes, he's just perfect at the moment. There's nothing wrong with his game, and he's certainly out there, and he's very, very confident, and on and off the field, he's perfect nearly in every way. And I said to you at the start of the year, I think he'll win the Dally M again. And even though he missed the first few rounds, he's rounded them up pretty quickly, and he'll continue to do so. It's a good side, the Sharks. They'll win a lot of games, and he'll be the reason for it the majority of the time. So he's going to be very hard to beat for that. And I think he should be a certainty within the 17 of the New South Wales team. Having said that, you have to value the combination of Cleary and Luai, who have been to the last 3 grand finals and played Origin together, and they've been down this road a number of times, and they've won a series, and that's valuable. That's really valuable. You don't want to break that up. So I think Nicho, whilst he's doing those wonderful things for the Cronulla Sharks at the moment, I think that will get him in the 17. I think he'd definitely be number 14 on the bench. But I think they'll stick with Luai and Cleary.
Okay. So Hynes to maybe play some dummy half?
He can do it if he has to. They've usually gone for Cameron Murray to fill in for a role there at dummy half. I know he trains there a lot at Origin when he comes in. And has played a little bit of dummy half.
Just to mention, Wade Graham in the 9 press in the Sydney Morning Herald today says Nicho Hynes is an 80-minute player.
Yep.
And one of his strengths is to exploit a team's weakness over the whole 80 minutes. So break a team down. So playing him off the bench wouldn't get the best out of him. Yeah,
but as I have said a number of times, when I was picking my bench for Origin, I picked 80-minute players. I didn't pick people who were interchange players. People who are interchange players at club football, I don't pick for Origin. I don't specifically pick someone who is a specialist of coming off the bench. I'm not going to go and pick some team's number 14 to be the number 14 for Origin. I pick a starter because if we go out there and there's 2 concussions and an injury in the first 3 minutes, then I've got to pick old mate off the bench to go out and play 77 minutes at Origin football, and all he does is have 2 15-minute stints on the weekend. I'm picking the wrong player. I pick 80-minute players. Everyone in the squad needs to be an 80-minute player, and for that very reason, because in Origin it can be carnage. There can be, and you've got to be able to cover a lot of positions. Outside backs are hard to cover if you don't have someone that's got athletic ability, either as a back row forward or a player that can play in other positions. And versatility's crucial, particularly when you're picking your bench, so that you cover all your options. And as I said to you here last week, I look at types of game too. If we were 6 behind, we'd tend to play. If we were 6 in front, we'd tend to play. Who do I want out there? What do I want the team to look like? Who do I want on the field at that time? And I'll manipulate my bench and my interchange around that, feeling as though, well, this is the team I want for the last 10 minutes in this situation or that situation. He is an 80-minute player, all right, but this is Origin. There's plenty of them around, and I would find it hard to break up the combination. I think they need to lose it in the ring. You know what I mean? They're the champions. I think Cleary and Luai are the champions. They need to lose it in the ring, not in the selection room.
They weren't the champions last year.
They won the comp.
They did win the Origin.
Well, Origin's Origin, but they won the comp. They won the Origin the year before. I think they need to lose it in the ring, not in the selection room. I think they've earned that right.
On the flip side, Joey scathing of Newcastle on the weekend. And I think Darren Lockyer's thrown a little bit of shade on Kalen Ponga's chances of playing for Queensland. He made the comment that the fact that he's moved into the six for Newcastle doesn't help his claims with Queensland. In all conscience, could you pick Kalen Ponga for Queensland at the moment?
He's not ready for Origin. No chance in the world he's ready for Origin. And that's, we've spoken about Kalen and the difficulties he's facing at the moment, and he's not playing enough football and he's not playing enough consistent football. He's got to change of positions. They're certainly not going to pick him at 5'8" in Origin,
no.
And that's where he's playing with his club. There are other fullback options around. Andrew, obviously, with his heart on his sleeve, would be very disappointed in the Newcastle Knights. I kind of agreed with the coach a little bit in the press conference after the game, and no one likes to make excuses for losing, but he said it was just kind of, I think the last 5 or 6 weeks has just got the better of them. They've been in a lot of tough, hard games, and maybe they're not seasoned enough to do that, and things went against them, and it all got a little bit too hard. And those good sides, when they have good nights, there is a big difference between them and the rest. I know we're bragging about all the close games at the moment and close scorelines, etc. But when the good sides get it right, they're going to beat the lesser sides. It's as simple as that. And it's their fault if they don't. So, we're going to get scorelines like that occasionally during the year. I mean, there's the first 3 games there last weekend: 44-6 Sharks over Cowboys, 43-12 Eels over Knights, and 32-6 Rabbitohs over the Broncos, who are missing a couple of key players. So, you get your other ones that are close, but there will be blowouts between the top teams and the lesser teams. If the top team has a good day and the lesser team has a bad day, you're going to get those big scorelines. It's just how it works at the moment. I wouldn't be too critical of the Knights. I'd be critical if they didn't bounce back this week, though. I think they need to lift.
They got the 2 points this week.
They got the bye, have they? Well, maybe that was on the back of their minds too.
Well, this is another one I wanted to bring up with you, because I think Andrew was a bit agitated earlier. He didn't want to say anything publicly, but they've been given a week off. And a few of them have gone to Bali. A few of them have disappeared from Newcastle and gone on holidays on the back of a big loss like that. Now, without making comments about what other clubs do, what would you want to see from your players after a big defeat?
Wouldn't happen in my day, mate. But, this is my view. I'd always use the bye round. See, when you're doing your team for the season, and it starts back in October. When you're preparing off that month off what you have in October, you generally start training, early in November, and you nearly work backwards from that. Now, most of your improvement, most of your development, most of your physical development, your combinations, your strategies and techniques, and working on your body and your mind and your soul and your spirit of your club is done in the off season. You put all that in the bank during the off season, and then you get into competition, and competition is different. Your training is to maintain. Your training is to treat injury, to prevent injury, to prepare and recovery after one game, and to prepare into the next game. And we have 8-day, 10-day, 14-day turnarounds. We have 4 and 5 day turnarounds. It can all mix up during the year. So your preparations are never quite the same. So all your improvement and everything you're going to draw on during the year should be done during the off season, right? Now, if you're lucky and get a couple of buys during the year, or even one buy during the year, or during the Origin time, you get a weekend off. For me, that was always a time to go back and refresh, to look at some things that maybe we're not doing as well as we would have liked, or maybe there's some things we can add to our game or develop in our game, or maybe we need a refresher course on all that. So, for me, the benefit of the buy was not getting busted on the weekend, was not going out and, it gave you 2 weeks to get ready for your next game instead of 1 week, right? That was me. Not
to go on holiday.
If I said that to players today, they'd look at you like you had, 3 heads.
So is this commonplace that when you get a bye that the players get days off?
Well, it tends to be. It tends to be. I think there's even, I'll stand corrected, but I think the RLPA demanded something in the thing. When you get a bye, you get 4 days off. It's compulsory and all that sort of thing. Just wouldn't have happened in my day. For me, it was 2 weeks to get ready for your next game, and you shouldn't lose if you had the 2 weeks to get ready.
What about if you're a player and your team's been flogged by 30? Would you want to jump on a plane and go on holidays?
No. Well, you'd probably like to, but that's not the answer.
But would you find that difficult to do?
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it as a coach. I couldn't do it as a player. I just don't. Yeah, and it might turn out to be the best thing. Maybe getting over there with a bit of sun and warm weather on their backs and throwing themselves in the ocean or whatever you're going to do in Bali might be the answer. I don't know. And if they come back, they'll say it is the answer. But there's 3 buys this year. You do it 3 times, I guarantee you it's not going to help you.
No. Yeah.
You know, now maybe he thought after what had happened and after what he said after the game, you know, they're a bit busted. I don't know. Maybe they're all carrying injuries. You know, like I know from the Bulldogs' perspective, we've had a terrible injury toll. We've got 6 or 7 blokes getting needled to play every week. Right? That's not the blokes that are out. That's the blokes that are actually, we're keeping them on the field to play. So, you know, when it comes to the Bulldogs' turn to have a bye, I can imagine they'll give them time off.
You'll have a Kentucky tour to Westmead Hospital.
Yeah, well, it's a time to replenish, to treat your injuries, you know, to get yourself ready, 100% fit for the following week, and it's a refresher course. Now, you know, I can't remember as a coach how many times we had buys, but I always treated it as. I remember when I played, we had buys. Warren Ryan used to flog us.
Yeah.
Like that first week, he would flog us in that week. And that put the steel in your team. It put the steel in your attitude. That's what, you're a professional footballer. You're paid to train and play. That's what you're paid to do.
Mm.
All this time off, too intense, you know, too much video. And all, find something else to do. Find another job if you don't want this job. What we seem to do is we keep wanting to make excuses for them and make it easier for them. Let's make it easier for them. You know, having more time off. We need more of this. We need more of that. We need more time off between seasons. You're paid to be a rugby league footballer. This is your profession. This is what you've chosen to do.
Yeah,
We've got footballers that don't even watch football, you know.
Yeah, I know. They play Xbox.
It's frustrating. Anyway, I'm a dinosaur, and it appears Joey is approaching that age as well.
Andrew's becoming a dinosaur.
Yes.
But, you know, he's probably echoing what many of the Newcastle fans... And please, this is an example, as Gus has just pointed out, a lot of clubs, when they have the bye,
they all do it. This is not Newcastle. They all do it.
Yeah.
They all do it.
But not all of them have been flogged by 30 the week before.
No. It would certainly be an incentive that if we don't perform well here, there'll be no break next week. That'll soon get them up to the mark.
What did getting flogged by Warren Ryan look like?
Yeah, you didn't want to be there.
What, just running? Running.
All sorts of things. Runnings and ups and downs and into each other and all sorts of things. Yeah, it was full on.
Did you have a beer? Did you have a beer after?
Always.
Every single time?
Always. He was a good judge of a schooner, was Warren. Yeah.
Tigers,
They're different era, different times. You know, we were all working, you know, back in the days. So you'd work all day and you go to training, get your backside handed to you at night.
If you're at Newtown, you get your own beer. You can drink your own Newtown beer.
You can now.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
It's beautiful beer.
Huh?
Beautiful beer.
You could even get your own head on a can. You could drink a beer with your own head on it.
I don't think I'd be getting me head on a can.
What would the Gus Gould brew be? You'd just be a straight draft man, wouldn't you? None of this craft garbage.
Well, I don't drink anymore. Not that I ever intentionally gave up alcohol, but I might have
like a couple of beers.
I might have a couple of days a year where I have a drink, 2 or 3 days a year, but I certainly don't drink regularly. I don't drink at home. I never drink at home, and I haven't done since probably 2005 when I got out of Clubland. I didn't intentionally stop. But I'm constantly on the road and I'm constantly working, and I just got out of the habit of doing it. And I don't do it. I go out now, even socially, and I'll sit there at dinner and have a couple of.
But what would you be a craft fruity beer, or would you be a?
I got no idea. I mean, I went out. The guys who used to run Oak, the sponsors of Panthers. I have 2 days a year. We have a lunch and we have a few drinks and do all that. And we had one recently, and I walked into the pub. There was 27 taps there with beers, and I said, "Well, what do I drink? Where's the Tooheys New? You know, we were the Tooheys Blues. I drank Tooheys New."
Did you get unlimited product?
No. What do you think it is, a gravy train or something?
Depends who you are.
Yeah, I mean, if I walked into a pub now, I wouldn't know what beer to order. And I can only, if I have a couple of beers, and I'll have a few bourbons and Coke or something like that. Or I don't mind a glass of wine. But I don't drink. I've stopped a long time.
If you see Gus in Brisbane this weekend, okay, drag him into the Caxton.
I'm going to have a few drinks one night. I haven't decided whether it's Friday night or Saturday night. I'm going to have a few drinks in Brisbane at the Magic Round.
Good. If you see Gus, buy him one.
But it'll be in the hotel lobby, so I can just jump in the lift and go up whenever I feel like it. I certainly won't be out night clubbing
I hope Ricky Stewart doesn't tackle you like he did.
the old days.
Yeah, night clubbing.
He broke me kneecap.
I know. That's such a funny story.
He broke me kneecap.
That's a funny story.
We were playing him that weekend. I was only keeping up all night because we were playing the Raiders that weekend.
Didn't twig. I can't believe that.
And we beat them. He thought he was being real smart.
Hey, Brooksy got the monkey off his back, eh? I've seen the memes going around. Luke Brooks is the dad and Jerome Luai is the baby.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, it's nice. It's nice that he's had a good week, Luke Brooks. So 273 days since they won a game.
yeah, but for 6 months that you don't play during over Christmas. I mean, like, you know, it's the Australian culture. I guess we were all probably half cheering for the Tigers the other night, that they would finally, particularly when it was close and they were hanging on. You didn't want to see it stripped away from them at the back end like that, and I think everyone can understand that. Luke Brooks in particular, everyone felt happy for because there's a lot of pressure on him. There's always a lot of media around him. Professional football is not for the faint-hearted. It can be quite brutal at times, and it's been brutal for Luke. I said on 100% footy 3 or 4 years ago that Luke Brooks is not the problem with the West Tigers, that maybe the West Tigers were the problem with Luke Brooks, and I suggested he moved some time ago. But he's loyal, he's stuck it out, he's a tough kid, and he keeps turning up and doing it every week, and he tries hard every week. I've never once seen him shirk his task or not look as though he was giving 100% of himself. It just hasn't worked for him, and he's probably had, 20 partners and different spines to work with over the years. They've never really settled on combinations, but he got it done the other night. He had a couple of big plays in the game too that were crucial.
Yep, good on him. They're a red hot hope this week. We'll preview round 10 shortly. If you're over at Manly, what would you do with Josh Schuster? Now, I know he's had a little tangle with a teammate, that's one thing, but I think, and Danny mentioned this on 100% footy, they're more concerned about the way that he's treated himself throughout this rehab. He keeps getting hurt, not looking after himself properly.
Well, as I say, I only hear the scuttlebutt that we hear by rumour and grapevine and all that type of thing. So, and I don't know Josh Schuster. I've never met the boy, so it's very hard for me to comment. And it's another club at the moment who are going through a few issues and, staff moving on and different players coming in and all sorts of rumours around trades and all types of things, and people are going to be raided, etc. I'm quite sure Manly know what they're doing and what the end game is for them. What eventuates out of all that, I guess we're all watching with great interest. Schuster is a talent. He's a talent when he's got the ball. There are other parts of his game which need a lot of work. People talk about the fitness element. The fitness element is what helps you do a lot of that other stuff, because the other stuff's pretty hard work and you've got to be ready for it.
He's saying he's not a committed defender.
He needs a lot of work on the other side of the ball. He's quite dangerous with the ball, but he doesn't play with the same zest and the same effectiveness when he hasn't got the ball. It's as simple as that. And that's just not defending and tackling. That's in other aspects of the game, support play, and there are a lot of other actions throughout the game which assist your team, even though you haven't got the ball. And he doesn't do a lot of those. He's got a lot of coaching and education if he's up for it.
Yeah,
he might not be up for it. I don't know. I don't know the boy. But you got to be up for it. I've seen plenty of talents like this over the years.
I was just going to say that. How many have you seen like this?
Too many to name. Dozens.
Yeah. Dozens
of really talented players that come through the junior system playing against their age group, and they're too good for their age group. They're just too talented. They're too big. They're too strong. They're too fast. They're too skillful. They've got all this flair and all these types of things that are nice, and it's part of the recruitment thing. Well, yeah, but how does that look in the NRL? And how does it look in the NRL, against the best teams on their best day? And is that the stuff that's going to win you NRL games? And sometimes the player doesn't get that. Sometimes the coach doesn't get that. But, the NRL is it's a tough way to make a living. It's a tough brand of football. And there are certain things that you want from every player in your team that have got nothing to do with talent. Nothing to do with talent. There are certain things you want for your club. The aspects of your club, the connectivity between players, the relationships between players, the the ability to prove to each other on a daily basis how tough you are, how committed you are, how loyal you are, how reliable you are all basic ingredients in forming the team that will fight for the common cause, and the players you want to play alongside, and players that you hope want to play alongside you. And that whole building of a team is so important. And there's just no place for, and I'm not saying John Schuster is one of these, Josh Schuster is one of these, but there is no place for the individual that doesn't want to be a part of that. You know, I'd rather lose the talent, but have the character.
That's a really good point.
And I remember Steve Waugh coming to me one time. I brought him over to talk to the New South Wales Origin team, and he came into camp, and I remember one of the sayings he had. He said, "I prefer courage over cover drives." He said, "I've seen plenty of silky smooth batsmen over the years that can, when the pitch is nice and flat, and they can just stand back there and cover drive the ball through the covers for 4 all the time, or stand back and play their shots." He said, "But when the pitch is turning, or it's fiery, or the bowling's on top, who's got the grit to stand there and get hit with the ball and keep smiling and getting the job done?" And it was a really good saying. He said, "I favour courage over cover drives." And it's the same in every team sport. You want the player that you can rely upon when you pick him, and he stands upon you alongside you in the line. And it's. I think it's one of the things about being accepted as players. I want the teammates to accept you that you'll do it as well. So that should be the goal of every player. Now, whether that's been put into Josh Schuster, sorry. I knew a John Schuster once.
Yeah, he played for Newcastle.
Yeah, Josh Schuster. Whether he's related, isn't he?
It's his dad, isn't it?
Yeah. Whether that's in Josh Schuster's education, I don't know. But someone needs to get it in there quick smart if it's not. Because his sheer talent won't survive otherwise.
Yeah, because we talk about...
Now, having said that, he might come out and tear a team apart next week. They might get 60% of the ball, and he might set up 5 tries and score 2 himself. And everyone will go, brilliant.
Doesn't solve the problem, then.
Doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
What about when you're playing the good side on the big day, when it's tight? And it's not easy, and there is no room to move, and there is no, can you stand up and do it there? You have to defend your line 4 sets of 6 in a row. Or, you have to help with the yardage game coming out of trouble. You have to play hurt. You have to play injured. You have to get up when you're tired. There's a lot of things that make the NRL footballer that have got nothing to do with talent. Media don't see it. Supercoach stats don't show it. Don't start me on that.
Who's in your Supercoach team, Gus?
But and it's in the education of it's in the building of your club, and that's what we talk about when we talk about culture and character. What is it what does it mean to be a Sea Eagle, and does Josh Schuster depict all those attributes? If we looked at what values and what of a Jake Trebojevic, and how much of that can we see in Josh Schuster?
He should move in with Jake Trebojevic.
Be a good start.
Do you know he still lives at Blacktown?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with Blacktown.
No,
what are you trying to say?
Well, he's got that daily commute. Well, that can't be.
Yeah, players do all that, but and I don't. His home environment might be perfect. I don't know. I'm not casting aspersions on all of that. I'm just saying that there are certain qualities that you look for in an NRL player to be part of an NRL team, to be part of an NRL club. Club first, team second, player third. But we coach the player to be a part of the team, to make the club.
Yeah. Good point.
They're our values, they're our standards. Club first, team second, individual third. But we need to coach the individual to be a part of the team to make your club. And whether or not, and that may have happened. Josh Schuster, may come out and surprise me. I don't know.
Well, it would seem that they haven't quite got there yet. But that's a really good point you make. Everyone talks about how he's so talented and how he's going to deny himself getting to the bottom of his potential. But then there's the flow-on effect of his relaxed attitude on the rest of the team.
Yeah. And whether or not, see, what can affect, and I'm not talking about Josh Schuster and Manly here, but if you've got a talented player who's got a less than perfect training ethic, a less than perfect attitude, a more casual approach, who doesn't do his homework, who doesn't do his research, who doesn't push hard in the gym, and the coach lets him get away with it because he's the main player, it will erode the rest of your team. Your team will have no personality, no character, no courage. I guarantee you. You know, no team can outperform its leader. No business can outperform its leader. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So if you are tolerating that, and it's an old saying, if you walk past it, you accept it. If you accept that, right, that's less than what you are demanding from everywhere else or what they are prepared to give, it's only a matter of time before it erodes. You know, and you'll have lost it before you realise it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The elite players you've coached, like the absolute elite, are they also the hardest workers?
100%. 100%. The most courageous, the toughest. Yeah, 100%. Play with injury, train with injury. 100%. They don't get there otherwise. They're found out. Plenty of players have had elite talent, elite skill. I've seen plenty of those. Some don't even make the NRL, but they won't survive in the NRL unless they've got it. They'll have their moments. They'll have their man of the match awards, and they'll have their good days. But are they going to be holding the trophy? You know, we got another saying. Do you think you'll be in the photo when we're holding up the trophy?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does the bloke that's in the photo holding up the trophy? You know, what can you say about him? And is he going to be in that photo? That's another little thing we got.
Yeah.
Give me some little nuggets today.
You are. It's very, very good. I'm trying to explore. I feel like I'm gold mining. But Thurston's a great example, isn't he? I mean, he's the great clutch player, wins the game, all that sort of stuff. You know, but he doesn't do that because it's a fluke. Like he's able to do it because
in his teenage years, every talent scout passed on him.
Yeah, I know.
Every talent scout said no. Every talent scout said no.
Yeah.
So
if they knew it was under the bonnet, they might not have.
So how did they get there? How did he get there? And they weren't looking in the right areas.
Yeah.
I tried several times to sign him.
I know you did.
Because, you know, I knew what I was looking at.
But when we know about the time you tried to get him to Penrith when he was at North Queensland, before that?
I tried to get him at the Roosters twice.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wanted him desperately.
Wow. This after he played for Canterbury?
This is while he was playing. He was playing junior reps at Canterbury the first time I wanted him. And I knew that Brad Fittler was at the back end of his career. And I'm saying to the Roosters, you know, we need to find another six. You know, and this kid's the one. But every talent scout passed on him. Every talent scout. Even Arthur Beetson, who was at the Roosters at the time, said, I just think he's too small and his defence is going to let him down. I said, I don't know. I think he's got the courage. I think he's got fight in him. I think he'll overcome it. You know, like plenty of kids are written off in their teenage years because they're a bit small and they can't tackle. But if they really want it, they find a way. They just find a way.
Well, look at Jeff Tuvey. We talk about size. Exactly. Like pound for pound, he'd have to be the toughest player ever.
Yeah. I remember Alan Langer, when they told Wayne Bennett, we got this halfback for Alan, he said, no, he's too small. It's not going to be in my team. Ended up one of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's what I say, it's too young to make that decision. But, yeah, and you know, we started on this talking about Josh Schuster, but there's plenty of Josh Schusters around in junior rep football that just look outstanding, but you've got to look beyond that. You know, the kick and the catch and the pass is just a small part. It's just a small part. That's the talent part of it. There's just so much more that goes into being a professional footballer and to being a winning professional footballer, not just making the NRL. You've got to win with them. And if you're going to be paying people that sort of money, they need to be people you can win with, that influence the scoreboard and lead others, and others feel, you know, can follow. Now, I don't know if anyone's ever had that conversation with Josh Schuster. I don't even know if he's capable of that. I don't know. He may well be. Maybe it's never been pointed out to him. Maybe it will happen. Maybe he has to change clubs for it to happen. I don't know. I don't know him.
Josh, move in with Jake Trebojevic. There's a start. Ask Gus. Why do we still have scrums? Asked Graham Higgins. They look like a silly ritual or a group hug.
Yeah. Terrible. Awful.
And I put a sub-question on the back of that. Who's the worst bloke? I mean, you didn't play in the front row, but who'd you hate packing in
I had a couple of games in the front row.
Who'd you hate packing in against? Who was a nightmare?
Well, back then, the scrums were serious, you know, and you had to push, but so was the tight head and the loose head in the scrum, you know. And even though it was your turn for the loose head and the tight head, the front row and the hooker used to put their heads together so that the other bloke couldn't get his head in between them. They just clash heads as they go in, and
It'll make it awful.
it was pretty fierce. Oh, there were fights, and I should get some vision of the old scrums. Different world, different planet, totally different to what it is today. The scrums we have in rugby league, they are embarrassing. They are embarrassing. Now, the argument is, well, we'll just group the forwards together for one play and see if we can score. So they've moved the scrums now to the middle of the field and give them two sides to attack, and we're seeing tries off the back of the scrum. And people think that's entertainment. I don't. But, you know, the scrum itself, if in its current form, is a blight on the game.
What about when the referee blows the whistle because they haven't fed it properly? And then they bring it back and he puts it in behind the lock forward's legs.
Yeah, that's only because the first bloke got his leg in the way or something.
Mate, what about it?
So there's no point to the scrum at the moment. No point to the scrum at the moment other than to group 12 of the players together to open a bit of space for the others. That's all it's for, and to try and create a try. So the game is trying to score the points. Right, the game thinks it's its responsibility to score the points, to get defenders out of the way, and it's the same with the. Don't start me on this, Matthew. I'll talk for others.
It's Graham Higgins, not me.
It's the same with ruck speed and tackle techniques and everything like that. There is an element within our game that thinks people want to see 40 to 30, and they want to see plenty of tries, and tries are the only things that well, your administrators do.
Mate, that game we did Penrith South last Thursday.
Yeah, brilliant.
What was it, 10-8 for a lot of the game? And was it 6 all at half time? It was not much more. It was a cracking game.
I've seen games 4-0 that were some of the best games I've ever seen. I saw a
1-0.
I saw a women's game the other night. It was the best game of women's rugby league I have ever seen. And I've been watching it right from the start, and I've been a supporter, and I've been an advocate for it. I've commentated on it, and I encourage it, and the game is building nicely because the girls love it. They're so passionate about it. But that game the other night, 1-0, was the best women's game of rugby league I have ever seen. And as I said on 100% footy, you might think 1-0 sounds pretty dour. It was anything but dour. Bulldogs got over the line 4 times, dropped the ball over the line 4 times. Mounties got tackled an inch short on a dozen occasions. The desperation in the defence was outstanding. You know, and there was so much else about that junior rep grand final day that wasn't interrupted by bunkers and HIAs and sin bins and none of that. You only get that stuff when you get to the big time. You only get all that, you know, tries are tries all day until you get to the NRL. You know, don't start me on all that.
Who kicked the field goal in the 1-0?
A young girl. And everyone clapped.
Well, how far out?
Showed about 28 metres, I reckon.
That's a good effort.
Left footer, I think. When they threw it to her, I said, she's no chance. And she sort of hit it, and I think she surprised herself because everyone just stood and watched. And it must have been curling towards the upright, and then all of a sudden they all went up.
How far from full time?
Minute and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we got right down to the
1-0.
wire. They'd been on the Bulldogs line for like the previous 10 minutes, set after set after set, 6 again, 6 again, 6 again, and you know, scrum wins, knockdowns, fifth tackle, knockdowns, you know, 6 again, line dropouts, and they'd just been peppering, and Bulldogs were pretty much out of gas, but just refused to let them through. And there'd been periods like that at the other end too, where the Mounties' defence was really great. And they sort of, on last tackle, they threw the ball to this girl, and she was so far out, I don't think anyone thought she was going to attempt it because no one tried to charge her down. They thought it was too far. She can't drop kick it that far. And she did.
So that's a Harvey Norman women's
magic moment. Harvey Norman. It's the open grade early season competition. Yeah. Earlier on was the Tasha Gale, which I think is under 18s or under 17s, under 18s, I think. It was a great game too, 26-22. Both teams, the Roosters and the Bulldogs, were undefeated. They hadn't played each other in the competition prior. Mm-hmm. Both had scored over 300 points. Both had conceded less than 100 points. They went into the game with real record. Roosters scored first to lead 6-0. Bulldogs then went bang, 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 bang and led 22-6. Oh. And it was 22-6 or 22-12 at half time. Roosters scored just before half time. And then the second half, the Roosters won 14-0.
Wow.
But again, Bulldogs bombed a number of opportunities, got over the line a couple of times, but didn't score in the second half, and the Roosters won 26-22. It too was a great... And it all goes well for the future of the game, and you know, I know Channel 9 here, we've made a big commitment financially to telecast this, and the competition's coming up at the end of the NRLW and the Women's State of Origin. But the development programs and the pathways for the girls are well entrenched now, and the good players are very, very good. How did we get onto this? By talking about Josh Schuster?
I don't know.
Yeah,
No, it was about the scrum. How do we get on to talk about the scrums?
Oh, the scrums, yeah. Scrums. Yeah.
What else have I got for you here? Have you heard of Tom Holroyd from England? Because we've got a Nathan Hynes has said, "What do you think of English for Tom Holroyd? Looks like a bit of bulldog in him."
Yeah. Everyone's got a bit of bulldog in them, mate. You just got to find it.
Do you know Tom Holroyd?
I've seen him. Yep.
You signed him for next year, have you?
Nope.
Speaking of bulldog, Carl Oluwapu. You got a live one there.
Yeah,
he went good.
He's a good kid. Yeah, he debuted on the weekend, came off the bench, and he became the youngest player in the NRL this year. He got a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but he's a great kid. He really is a great kid, and he's a real talent. But we're not putting a lot of pressure on him. We're not even doing a lot with him at the moment, other than just physically and mentally preparing him to be a professional footballer. He's very professional in his own right. He's a student of the game. He does everything right. He tries, He's very physical. He's actually elite strength for his size and age. Our wrestle expert and the bloke who does the human movement stuff likened him to Cameron Murray and Taylor May. He said they're two of the strongest players, naturally gifted, strongest players that he's ever dealt with. Cameron Murray and Taylor May, the young winger from Penrith.
Yeah.
And he said Carl Oluwapu was in that category. On the weekend, he went out there, and the first pass they threw him, I think Josh Reynolds threw him a pass that went behind him, and he had players ready to belt him, and he caught it one-handed behind and got them, and then dug in and kept his legs moving and pushed through the line. And it's all we said: just get out there and be yourself, and show them you're not scared to be there. And he certainly did that. Yeah,
that was exciting.
But he's got football in him too, and that hopefully comes out in the next couple of years.
That was a good win too. That was gutsy.
It was I reckon it was a bigger upset than the Tigers one because of all the players unavailable. It was a really gritty performance.
I didn't. I tipped yous.
No, did you?
I tipped yous, 100%. So did Freddie.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
6 tackle trivia. Excluding the Dolphins, which two teams have never lost at Magic Round?
Oh, that's not a trivia question. How am I supposed to know that?
Why is that not a trivia question?
Well, that's not real. That's just trying to get me to get one wrong.
Well, have a think about it.
Yeah, go on.
Well, it'd be someone who doesn't lose very often.
Thinking
I would have thought.
music. I'll work it out.
Okay. On the way to our thinking break. Last year we launched Stories of Origin Series 1. Well, Series 2 of the podcast is out now. We launched it on Monday with Fatty and Sterlo talking about the 1987 series, and we've got Brad Fittler and Billy Slater coming up. Together, talking about the 2004 series where Freddie made his comeback, when Gus gave him a ring, and Billy made his Origin debut. You'll get that every Monday, wherever you get your podcast. Here's a snippet of what we've got coming up.
The best they've come up with was a draw. Lockyer, charge down, no knock on. Fiddler's going to score! Fiddler, it's score!
Couldn't wait to put the ball down to turn around and get to the players because I was 32 and they were all 20. I was like the opposite of Billy, and turning and seeing Willie and the two Luke boys and Gaz and Cooper and Minnie, and they're like kids. I felt like their father nearly. But that was my favourite moment to turn around. I remember I just jumped up and
Freddie Fittler.
And tonight, Brad Fittler joins the great Wally Lewis as one of our leading players.
Well, I knew I had Billy covered. I remember soon over him covered.
10 minute head start over 20.
And I only had 15 minutes to run.
The best thing about those clips is Cam Smith's got hair and Darren Lockie's got no hair. How times have changed.
So, can we stitch Gus up with 6 tackle trivia? Ooh. Excluding the Dolphins, which two teams have never lost at Magic Round?
Have never lost at Magic Round. How many Magic Rounds have we had? 3? This is number 4 coming up. Well, my first thought would be someone like the Storm.
Penrith beat them last year.
Did they? I don't know. Might be a bit obscure. Parramatta.
Mm-mm. This is a hard question, Jordan.
Raiders.
Raiders?
Yeah, I've got visions of them performing well up there. No, I don't know.
the Roosters and the Rabbitohs.
They've never lost, have they?
Rabbitohs have scored 32 points in every game they've played at Magic Round.
Have they? Who do they play this week?
Melbourne.
I might stop.
Don't go early.
Okay, Roosters and Rabbitohs.
There you go.
They're good at Suncorp.
Well done, Jordan. We've got your grand finalists for Gus's Scariest Men in Rugby League.
Oh, please.
20,000 votes. Can you believe this? 20,000 votes.
So Gordon Tallis defeated Fui Fui Moi Moi,
Yep.
and Ruben Wiki defeated Mark Guy. Not by a lot, they were close.
59% to Gordy, 41 for Fui Fui.
So the grand final on Wednesday, May the 10th, Gordon Tallis versus Ruben Wiki to find the scariest player in rugby league. Now, you were going to do this about today's players. They've all gone back into the past.
I know. Well, that was the initial
Does
thing.
that mean today's players aren't scary? They're not allowed to be scary, are
You
they?
can tell them that.
You're not allowed to be scary today.
Not allowed to,
No.
not allowed to put it on anyone.
You're not allowed to be scary.
Well, what happened, if you think back a couple of weeks, we put it out, and all the responses from our wonderful listeners and viewers out there all came back with historical figures.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd better open it up.
Who's scary today? There's no one scary today. You're not allowed to be
I
scary.
don't believe it. But Nelson asked for Solomona and Adam for Noah Blake.
But any time they get
They're
scary, they send them off. Sin bin.
Well, do you concede that Gordon Tallis and Ruben Wiki are scary?
They were scary. Absolutely, they were scary.
I bet Ruben Wiki started his career as a centre.
He did. Big, strong dude.
I think he still holds the record for most tests for New Zealand.
He could whack.
Yeah. He was a great player. And he's a champion bloke.
So who are you tipping?
Oh, gee, that's hard, isn't it?
The Raging Bull.
He'll win.
He wins.
All right. We're going to put it out there, and we'll have a winner next week. I'd love to talk to Gordy, but he's got a contract with Fox. Round 10 preview for Magic Round. Thanks to Bluebet. Just a reminder to ask yourself what you're really gambling with. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. The early game on Friday. Bulldog, $2.40. Raider, $1.57. Now, you're playing first up here. Now, that's an advantage given that the field's not going to chop up too
Well,
much.
the field's going to be a big thing over the weekend, isn't it? The way we saw it last week. I'm hoping, and I'm sure they have, done their best to rectify that, because we don't want any injuries or unforeseen injuries up there. We want the football to be good. So I'm assuming that Suncorp Stadium staff will have that all ready.
Who you got in?
What we've named, I don't think they've it was hard to get 22 players to name. Braden Burns is now out for 5 to 8 weeks. What a mighty game he played on the weekend.
How good was he?
He was terrific. He's always had the ability, Braden. We had him at the Panthers many years ago. He played in the same under-20s winning team as Cleary and Luai and all those sort of players, Fisher Harris and that.
And he went to South, so he had a really bad knee, didn't he?
Yeah. He's had some injuries. He's never really got a fair crack at it, but he played really well on the weekend. They've named Max King, but I don't think Max will play. Anyway, they'll be short preparation. They played Sunday. They've got to back up again Friday, which has always been hard for all the teams. But and Raiders, what have they won? 2 or 3 in a row now?
Won 3 in a row with the bye wedged in there. But I'm wondering, after all the emotion, Whiten broke down and Ricky got upset in the post-match presser. So maybe you're getting a bit of a good time. So that's the opening game.
Yep.
Of Magic Round. Friday night footy, you'll see it here on 9. Manly $3.40 with no Jake Trebojevic. Broncos $1.32. In comes Payne Haas and Ezra Mam. Andrew Johns in Fred in the 8th today said to me that he reckons Jake Trebojevic is worth about 14 to 16 points, not being there with all the work he does.
Jake Trebojevic?
Yeah.
Well, certainly their defence is, someone's going to have to do what he does in defence. It's not just the number of tackles, but the effectiveness of it, the strength of it, and I don't know that they've got anyone there that can make up for that, which is going to make them vulnerable. And I think that Payne Haas back in the side and Ezra Mann solves a few of the issues the Broncos had the other day. They were certainly missed in their game last week. I'll go with Bronco at home.
No problem. Saturday, 3 p.m. Good game of footy. Panthers can't lose 3 in a row, or can they? They're playing the Warriors. $3.50 the Warriors, $1.30 favourites for the Panthers. James Fisher-Harris is back for Penrith, and I see Spencer Lenyu's on an extended bench. And they get a couple back too, the Warriors, Charles Schuster and Tohu Harris.
Yeah, they were missing key players last week, and the conditions were difficult as well. Roosters went over there and got a job, 14-0, and beat them. The Warriors weren't disgraced in that, and they're not disgraced in any game. It'll be interesting because young Webster, the coach of the Warriors, the new coach of the Warriors, coached at the Panthers over the last couple of years, and he's instilled a lot of the defensive techniques that they used up there with the Warriors, which I think has really helped them. They've got a really strong attitude, and the Panthers, you know, they're big ins. Fisher Harris and Spencer Leno, if they play, are big ins, and I think they'll get it right. All the games they've lost, the Panthers, have been in the wet weather.
Yeah, they has too.
Yeah, it's just stifled their attacking game a little bit, and they haven't been at full strength the whole time. But I think they'll have enough points in them to get the Warrior. Close though.
Yeah, big gap in the market with Bluebet.
Yeah.
You could say the same about this game too. Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Cronulla $1.35. Dale Finucane back. With all the middlemen falling over for New South Wales, it's a timely inclusion. I wonder if Freddie will be calling him up for game one. Dolphins $3.20. Anthony Milford's back on the bench. Oh, Valance Tavare. Does that name mean anything to you? He's the young gun rugby player that the Dolphins signed.
All right.
And he's been going around. He played Brisbane Premiership last year, Queensland Cup this year, and I think he's going to make his NRL debut on the weekend. And he plays. He's a bit like Conrad Hurrell, Seifert Talakai, all wrapped into one.
Okay.
Highly regarded.
Okay. Well, I think Shark wins this very comfortably.
Okay.
I think they win by a lot.
Saturday night footy here on 9. No Thursday footy, so we get the Saturday game. And what a game it is. Melbourne, $1.95. Rabbitohs, $1.85.
Storm.
Storm to win.
Pretty confident.
Really?
Hmm.
Do you want to elaborate?
Not really.
Okay.
I just don't think Storm will... I don't think Rabbitohs will get their own way as they do quite often.
Okay. Melbourne to win. Sunday, 1:50 p.m. Tigers $1.95. Dragons $1.85. Now, Zach Lomax has been dropped. And Jacob Little has been dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have thought he's had a part to play in most of their tries this year. Jaden Sullivan's come onto the bench.
Yeah. He's a good little player, Jaden Sullivan. I watched him play reserve grade last week. He controlled the game pretty well. He played halfback. When he comes to first grade, they generally throw him in at hooker. Yeah, it's an interesting one because I just think this Tigers... I've been saying for weeks, this Tigers team has got the makings of a good side. Got a really good forward pack, and they've got some really talented players.
Big Stefano went good last week. Best game he's played in a while.
He's a good player. He's a good player. Again, this is hard because the Dragons can contribute to their own demise in a lot of ways. I guess the shake-up of moving a lot of players, Ravalawa comes back in, which helps. Fagay's a good player, whilst I really rate Zach Lomax. He's a genuine centre.
Do you think Zach Lomax has been...
I can't pick a winner there.
Has Zach Lomax been damaged by moving sides of the field?
Said that in the first game of the year. Why is he on the left-hand side of the field? Yeah, I don't know. I don't pick other people's teams anyway. I'm going to go Dragon.
Ooh, I thought you'd stay on the Tiger bandwagon.
I'm going Dragon. I think Dragon will be too good.
You got a win for him last week. Okay, 4 o'clock Sunday. Our game on 9. Roosters $1.27. Cowboys $3.75. I'm like everyone. I've been waiting for the Cowboys to click. I think the Cowboys are getting worse.
They're lost in the Bermuda Triangle. We've lost radio contact with them.
They're missing.
No one's answering. We heard Mayday, Mayday, and that's the last
all
we heard. I don't know what's happened there.
Can someone answer the radio, please?
Yeah, but I would expect Rooster to be too good there.
And
Rooster's undefeated up there, aren't they? So they'll be the undefeated team after this weekend.
According to your tips, that's right.
Yeah.
Very good. Sunday, 6:25. Oh, geez, I'm interested in what you got to say here. Titan.
Yep.
$2.80.
Yep.
eel, $1.44.
Yep.
Is there a team? There's a team in that Gold Coast side somewhere, isn't there?
Oh, yes, my oath there is. There is, yeah. I like watching the Titans play.
Yeah.
I like watching the Titans play. They've had some meltdowns and they've had some poor halves of football. You know, there's sort of a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde with them. But I think they make everyone nervous. I think when everyone comes up against the Titans, you're kind of thinking, well, we should win, but gee whiz, if they turn it on, we could be in real trouble.
I can see it coming here.
Yeah, look, it's very, very tempting. Let me just go to my team sheets.
Oh,
here.
Brimson's out.
Is he?
Yeah.
And Jaden Campbell comes in. He's a good player. You've got the world's fastest man on the wing, you reckon?
Planet.
Kelly, Fafita, good kid.
Philip Sami's playing good.
He's a good player. Let me look at this Parramatta side. No,
So-
too settled.
Andrew Davies going to come in.
Too
Mid-season move from Canterbury, obviously.
Too many hot goods back. No, I'll go with Eel.
Okay.
I'll go with Eel.
So you concede a chance to Gold Coast, yes?
I do concede a real chance. Well, that's the way the football is at the moment. They're not, but I do think Titans got a chance there. So I'm going to go Bronco, Panther, Shark, Storm, Dragon, Rooster, Eel.
Okay. Of course, that's thanks to Bluebet, and remind yourself to consider what you're really gambling with. Free and confidential support, gamblinghelponline.org.au, and Newcastle fans, you have the 2 points while the team's having a little week off. All right.
Behave yourselves in Bali.
Yes, be good. Behave yourself in Brisbane.
I will.
We might catch up for a pina colada.
Okay.
That's Six Tackles with Gus. Back next week. Enjoy the footy over the weekend.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website